Good day, everyone. My name is Bryn Axel Tamola, and we will now discussing to you the lesson or topic about diffraction. So, what are diffraction? Fraction is a part of a whole. This whole can be a region or a collection. The word fraction is derived from the Latin word fractio, which means to break. The Egyptians, being the earliest civilization to study fractions, used fraction to resolve their mathematical problems, which included the division of food, supplies, and the absence of a bullion currency. In ancient Rome, fractions were only written using words to describe a part of a whole. In India, the fractions were first written with number above another, numerator and denominator. But without a line, it was the Arab only who added the line which is used to separate the numerator and denominator. In mathematics, fractions are the mathematical expressions of something that is divided into two or more pieces or parts. The two parts of fractions are the numerator and denominator. In the written expressions, they are divided by a slash or a bar. The number before the slash is called numerator, whereas the one after the slash is referred to as a denominator. The slanted slash can be replaced by the horizontal line which divides a number on the top of other one on the bottom. A fraction is simply tells us the following. So we have here the example. So 3/4. So 3 is the numerator and 4 is denominator. Examples of fractions. So we have here the different fractions. So we have 1/2 is equal to 2/4 is equal to 3/6 and is equal to 4/8. So we have three types of fractions. So we have proper fractions, improper fractions, and mixed number fractions. So types of fractions, proper fractions, this is the numerator, top number is smaller than denominator. So we have here the examples of 1/3 and 5/8. So improper fraction is the number is larger than denominator. So we have here the example of 7/3 and 4/3. Then last type of fraction is we have mixed number fractions. So whole number and a fraction. So we have here 3 5/7 and 2 4/9. So we have here the example of A/B, which is A is explained or represent as numerator, and the slash between the A and B is the fractional bar, and B is explained as denominator. So let's discuss the addition of fraction. So the addition of fraction is a little different from the normal addition of numbers, since a fraction has a numerator and a denominator which is separated by a bar or a slash. So now let us learn the basic steps of the addition of fraction, which with the help of the following example. So example here is that we have 2/6 plus 3/6. So since the rule of addition of fraction is if the denominator is the same, so we just have to simply copy the denominator and add the numerator. So we have here the 6, just simply copy 6 and add 2 and 3. So we have 5/6. So second example is we have unlike fractions. Now let us understand how to do the addition of fraction with different or unlike denominators. when the denominators are the different the fractions are called unlike fractions. In such fractions, the first steps is to convert them to like fractions so that the denominator become common. This is done by finding the least common multiplications, or LCM, of the denominators. Let us understand with the help of the following examples. Adding fraction with whole numbers. So we have here the 3 plus 4 over 5. So since we have 3 plus 4 over 5, the first steps that we will going to do is, in this method, step 1. In this method, we change the whole number to its fractions form by writing 1 as its denominator. Here, 3 is the whole number, and this can be written as 3 over 1. Step 2. So we have now the 3 over 1 plus 4 over 5. Now, 3 1 can be added to 4 over 5. That is 3 over 1 plus 3 over 5. We will add this by making the denominators the same because they are unlike fractions. This implies as 3 over 1 plus 4 over 5 is equal to 3 over 1 times 5 over 5 plus 4 over 5 times 1 over 1. So it is equal to 15 over 5 plus 4 over 5 is equal to 19 over 5 is equal to 3 over 4 over 3 and 4/5. So let's discuss another operation of fractions, which is subtracting the fraction. There are 3 simple steps to subtract a fraction. Step 1. Make sure that the bottom number, the denominators, are the same. Step 2. Subtract the top numbers, the numerators. Put the answer over the same denominator. Step 3. Simplify the fraction if needed. So example, so we have here 3/4 minus 1/4. So step 1, the bottom numbers are already the same. So we have here the same denominator, which is 4, and goes straight to step number 2. So our step number 2 is subtract the top numbers or the numerator and put the answer over the same denominator. So since we have 4 as denominator, so we just simply subtract the 3 and 1. So we have 2 over 4. Step 3. So this implies with this to simplify the fraction. So since we have 2/4, so we just simplify this by simplifying this to 1/2. So fraction with different denominators. What do we do if the fraction have different denominators? In this case, we can make the denominators the same by finding their least common multiplications, or LCM. Example, so we have 5 over 4 is minus 7 over 6. So since the denominator are different, 4 and 6, we have to find their least common multiplication, or LCM. So LCM 4 of 6 is 12. The two new fractions will have 12 as denominator. So we have here the 5 over 4 minus 7 over 6. So since the 4 and 6, its LCM is 12, so we just simply copy 12 as its denominator. So in order to find the numerator of each new fraction, divide the new denominator, the LCM that we have found, by the old denominator and multiply the answer by the old numerator. So the first fraction is 12 divided by 4 equals 3, and 3 times 5 is equal to 15. The second fraction is 12 divided by 6 is equal to 2. Then 2 times 7 is equal to 14. So now, we have 5 over 4 is 5 over 4 minus 7 over 6 is equal to 15 over 12 minus 14 over 12. So the result is 1 over 12. As both fractions have the same denominator, we can subtract the numerator and leave the same denominator. So we have 5 over 4 minus over 7 over 6 is equal to 15 over 12 minus 14 over 12 is equal to 1 over 12. And as a result is 1/12. Thank you.
Now let's continue our discussion. So let's talk about multiplication of a fraction. So when we're going to talk about multiplication, it is multiply means to add equal groups. When we multiply, the number of things grouped increases. And the two factors and the product are parts of a multiplication problem. And in mathematics, the product is the result of a multiplication or an expression that identifies object to be multiplied called factors. So when we're going to define also the fraction, it is say that fraction represents a part of a whole, or more generally any number of equal parts. So now let us going to discuss what is multiplication of a fraction. So how we're going to say or to explain multiplication of a fraction. Let's go back here. So multiplication of a fraction is the first step when multiplying fraction is to multiply the two numerators, and also the second step is to multiply the two denominators, and finally simplify the new fractions. So these fractions can also be signified before multiplying by factoring or come factors in the numerator and in the denominator rather. So here, how to find fraction of a fraction. So as I mentioned earlier, fraction is a represent of a part of a whole, and more generally any number of equal parts. That's a fraction. So the first thing to remember is the word of, and means multiply in mathematics. So we have of is equals to x. Okay, let's move on to another slide. Okay, given this proper fraction, 1/2 times 4 over 9. So let's define first, or let's understand first what is proper fraction rather. So proper fraction is a fraction which has its numerator value is less than the denominator. So as you look here, the numerator is smaller and the denominator is bigger. Okay, you are going to remember that when you're going to talk in vernacular, dako ang numerator, gamay ang denominator. So now next slide. Okay, to solve that problem or given problem, we need to follow the steps of multiplication of a fraction as I mentioned earlier. So step 1, we need to follow the step 1. The step 1 for this is multiply your numerator straight across. So we have 1 times 4. So we have 4. Another is that in step 2, we need to remember that multiply your denominator straight across. So if the step 1 is multiply your numerator straight, in the step 2, multiply your denominator straight across. So we have 2 times 9 is equal to 18. So that's 1. Now when we're going to go to step 3. So the step 3 here is simplify your answer. In this case, we reduce. So as you look, 1 over 2 times 4 over 9 is equal to 4 over 18. So when we are going to reduce this one, we need to divide it by 2. So 4 divide 2 and 18 divide 2. So we have the answer 2 over 9. So that is how to solve a proper fraction. So that you are able to get the answer easily, you need to follow the steps, and that step 1, step 2, and the step 3. So now let's move on to the improper fraction. So let's define first what is improper fraction. Improper fraction is a fraction that has a numerator that is greater or equal to the denominator. So if you observe the proper fraction, the numerator is smaller and the denominator is bigger. Here in improper fraction, we have the numerator rather is bigger and the denominator is smaller. So if 9 over 5 times 6 over 4. Okay, so how to solve that problem or how to solve this? We need also to follow the steps for getting the answer of this given problem. So step 1, of course, multiply your numerator straight across. It's just like the proper fraction steps or process on how to get the answer of the given problem. So we need to multiply your numerator straight across. So we have 9 times 6 is equal to 54. So the step 2, again, we need to multiply the denominator straight. Okay, straight. So we have 5 times 4 is equal to 20. So we have the result 54 over 20. So now, is the answer already? No, we need to continue or proceed to the step 3. So what is the step 3? Of course, we need to simplify your answer. In this case, we need to reduce because the 54 over 20 is very big and a bigger result. So that's why we need to reduce it into smaller one. So 9 over 5 times 6 over 4 is equal to 54 over 20. So if you're going to reduce it or to simplify it, we need to divide it by 2. So we have 54 divide 2 over 20 divide 2. So we have the result of 27 over 10. So where do we get the 27 over 10? So we have to divide 54 divide 2, we have 27, and 20 divide 2, we have 10. So that's why we get this result 27 over 10. So the question is it simplified already? Yes, it is simplified already. So now we have here the multiplying mixed numbers. So we are done with the proper fraction or improper fraction. So let's move on for this. Multiplying the mixed numbers. So remember, you should need to remember that to write a mixed number as an improper fraction, you need to start with a whole number, multiply with the denominator, and then add the numerator and use same denominator as you are going to see here in our slide. 1 over 1/5 is equal to 1, okay, times 5 plus 1 over the denominator of 5 is equal to 6 over 5. So as mentioned in the multiplying mixed numbers, you should need to write the mixed number into improper fraction, start with a whole number, multiply the denominator, add the numerator, then use the same denominator. Okay, you need to remember that one. All right, so let's do this example, given example. So mixed number, we have 1 over 1, 2 over 3 times 2, 1 over 7. So that is a mixed number. So we have to do this next. We need also to follow the step-by-step process in how to solve that one. So step 1, write the mixed numbers as improper fractions. So as I mentioned earlier, we need to start or to write the mixed number rather into improper fractions so that we can able to solve that given problem. And it is not so hard for us to solve that problem. Okay, if you have into improper fraction, we have 1 and 2 over 3 is equal to 5 over 3. So 2 over 1/7 is equal to 15 over 7. All right? All right. So next, step 2, multiply the numerators and denominators. So 5 times 15 is equal to 75, and then you are going to multiply the denominator, which is 3 times 7 is equal to 21. Let's proceed to simplify, okay, which is step 3. Okay, as we solve the problem, 5 times 15 rather is equals to 75, and then 3 times 7 is equal to 21. So we have the result of 75 over 21. But remember, that is very big of answer, so we need to reduce or to simplify. So we have 75, so we need to put here 75 divided by the denominator, which is 21. Okay, 75 divided 21, 3 over 63. 75 minus 63 is equal to 12. Okay, and we have here the result 3, which is the result of 75 divide 21, which is 3. We need to put that at here. 3 is a kilid, or and then the 12, which is the remainder at the numerator, and then just copy the denominator 21. So we have 3 and 12, 21. But you need also to simplify that one. So we have 3, 12 over 21. We need to divide it by 3. 3. So 12 divide 3 and 21 divide 3. So when we are going to divide 12 divide 3, we have the result or the answer of 4. And then 21 divide 3 is 7. So that's why we have the result or the simplified answer 3, 4 over 7. And then you just need, you just copy the 3, 3. Okay, that's why we get the result of 3 and 4 over 7. Now, so if 2 over 3 times 2, 1 over 7 is equal to 3, 4 over 7. Okay. And I think that's all about multiplication of a fraction, starting from the proper fraction, improper fraction, mixed fraction. So the most important thing we need to remember when we're going to solve this kinds of problem or this kind of problem, we need to follow the step-by-step process, a step-by-step process on how to get the answer of that specific given problem. And when it comes to multiplication of a fraction, you should need to remember that the first step when multiplying fraction is to multiply the two numerators, and then second step is to multiply the two denominators, and finally simplify or reduce it if it is needed, the new fractions. And then the fraction is can also be simplified before multiplying by factoring, or a common factors is the numerator and then the denominator. That's you need to remember when it comes to multiplication of a fraction. So I think that's all about multiplication of a fraction. So we need to remember that one, and you need to get easily the answer. You should need to follow the step-by-step given process to solve the multiplication of a fraction. And you need also to remember in mixed fraction that what I've mentioned a while ago in my explanation is that when it comes to multiplication of a mixed number, you need to remember to write the mixed number as an improper fraction. Start with the whole number, multiply with the denominator, and add the numerator, use the same denominator. So thank you so much, and that would be all the discussion or the explanation about the topic of multiplication of a fraction. And then another discussion will follow after this. So thank you.
Since you already know how to add fraction, subtract fraction, and to multiply fraction, so now we're going to proceed to division and fraction. So the same as the subtraction of fraction, addition of fraction, and multiplication of fraction, so division of fraction also has its own procedure in getting the answer. So we have the fraction here are the given example. So we have 3 over 1 divided by 1/4 is equal to blank. So our first step or our first procedure in getting the answer of this equation. So let us going to keep your first fraction or your dividend. So we have two fraction here in the given example. So this will be our first fraction and this will be our second fraction. So this first fraction called dividend and our second fraction called the divisor. So since the step 1 states that we need to keep our first fraction, so we need to keep this first fraction. So it will be remain as 3 over 1, 3 over 1. So that will be our first step. So our second step is to change the operation into multiplication. So the operation that the given example given is that division. But in step 2, it states that we need to change the operation into multiplication. So that is why we change the operation into multiplication. So why we need to use multiplication um, than addition or subtraction? It's because the opposite of division is the multiplication. So next, our step 3 is that take the reciprocal of the divisor. So 3 over 1 divided by 1/4 equals 3 over 1 multiplied to, so in step 3 we need to take the reciprocal of our divisor. Again, our divisor here is 1/4. Reciprocal, it means you need to change your numerator and your denominator. It means that your denominator in the given example will be your will be your numerator, and your numerator will be your denominator. That is why, as you can see, we have 4 over 1. So our given example here now will be 3 over 1 multiplied to 4 over 1. Next. So as easy as this. Step 4. Multiply the numerators, then multiple the denominator. So this will be the guide or the ways in multiplying the both fractions. So numerator multiply to numerator and denominator to denominator. So our numerator here is 3 and 4. So we need to multiply both. So 3 times 4 is equal to 12, and 1 times 1 we have 1. So our answer is here is 12 over 1. So step 5, simplify if possible. If there is possibility that we can simplify the answer of the given example, so we need to simplify it. So since we have 12 over 1, so 12 is can be divided into 1. So 12 divided by 12 divided by 1 is equal to 12. So we have the whole number here, and our final answer is 12. So I hope you'll learn you already have the glimpse of how you're going to get the division of fraction.